at last. Sorry, I had to put it back an hour. We've had a few little bits and bobs happening, so I couldn't come on at 10 o'clock. Right, so today I'm going to do a little bit of playing with royal icing, a bit of pipe lace, other little bits and bobs. So if you have any questions, uh, I'm not doing things like extension work or anything like that. I mean, I usually try and keep it to an hour or less, so that may be for another time. Yeah, so I'm going to carry on with the royal icing, and the first thing is to just go over a couple of books that I find really helpful. So, of course, dear Eddie Spence, who has recently, well, passed away, hasn't he? Well, yeah. His book is absolutely amazing. So if you're thinking of, I've got it signed, I've got mine signed, how lovely is that? But if you're going to get a book, then invest in this one. It covers everything that you could possibly want to know about it. Royal icing, let me put that one down somewhere safe. Right, then, this is a really old book that I've got, Kate Venter, who tragically, or sadly, has also passed quite recently. And I've used this so many times over the years. And she has, you know, things like this little holly pattern here around the side of the cake. She does some beautiful work. And as I say, got lots of patterns in there as well. And even if you only use it to practice piping with, so that's another. I've even got a piece of fruitcake on the back. That's another lovely book. And then years ago, I know I got one, and Margie Ellis got one, my friend. Sadly, who's also passed. I'm really on a. Anyway, yeah. So wedding cake book, and in here there's so much. I can just show you that. There's so much lovely piping extension work, and the lace, for, you know, lace that you peel off. A lot of chat, which is very interesting. See that one, I don't know if you can see that one, but there's loads of piping directly on the cake. That was when cakes were 3 inches and not massively tall things. But yeah, you see, Christmas is coming up, and most fruit cakes are more or less 3 inches, maybe 4 when they're marzipan and ice. So, you know, you can use sort of this technique on your Christmas cakes without having to have a massive tall cake, which are more usually sponges, aren't they? Right, so I'm just going to put that one down. Now I'm going to go on about the, oh, that was handy, wasn't it? Let me get rid of that. The actual icing itself. So I use the 2 Chicks egg whites. You can use Merry White or powdered egg whites. Just follow the instructions for it. And I also use, I've had this in the freezer. You can keep it in the freezer for a couple of months, I think. Just follow the instructions. And I have used Silver Spoon icing sugar. Now, it does have calcium in it as an anti-caking agent. And that's why when some people do their run-outs and they go to peel them off the wax paper or whatever it is you do your run-outs on, they crumble. And that's because it has got the calcium in it as an anti-caking agent. So find one that doesn't. I know Tate and Lyle have, no, this is cornstarch. So the other one is maize starch. But if you get pure icing sugar, or bridal icing sugar, it usually hasn't got that in, which that's fine then for run-outs or any delicate work. But for what I'm doing today, for basic royal icing, then this is fine. You know, whichever one you use for the supermarket. So I'll just put that down then. I'll get a little file down here. Right, so I'll put my 2 Chicks to one side. I will be using a little bit of that. And what I do, I put, it's usually, it's about 200 grams of icing sugar to 1 egg white. So I'll move this over here. But what if you put your egg white in the bowl and add enough icing sugar? When you mix it, it's like double cream, thick cream, before you put it on the machine. And then you can adjust from there, because everybody's eggs might be different sizes. Now, if you're using fresh egg white, pasteurised, it's best to actually, you know, the little white bit that you get in it, attaching it to the yolk, then you need to obviously take the yolk away. Make sure you don't get any yolk in at all, otherwise your royal icing won't, it won't whip up or beat up. And also that little white bit, remove that, because that will, if you leave it in, will block your tubes. Nothing worse than blocked tubes, ladies. We know about that. I won't go any further on that. So, so if you then leave your egg white overnight at room temperature, and your egg white will liquefy, so it's easier then to mix, because it's quite jelly-like, isn't it, to begin with. Right, so I've gone over my ingredients. Always keep your royal icing covered. Oh, it's here. Okay, so I've got mine in here. Now, I've mixed mine, and this is full peak, so it's not shiny. And if I just do this with my knife, you see, I don't know if you can see that, but the peaks stand up. They don't flop over. That would be soft peak if you're going to flood with that later. But this is, you know, if you're going to pipe a shell and you want something to hold its shape, then it's a good one. So you want it at full peak, or firm peak. Right, so always keep it covered, because the tiniest bit around the outside edge, if it crusts and you put it in your piping nozzle, it will block the end of your nozzle. So you know, don't let anything crust at all. So I always put a little bit of plastic on there. And even if you've got a lid, a box with a lid, there's air between the icing and the lid. That can, you know, sort of crust over. So just make sure, I like to push this down onto the icing, and then I put a damp cloth over that. So I know now that nothing's going to crust. Right, so I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. I'm just going to show you a little bit of equipment before I start piping, and I'll just clear my knife. Always make sure there's no build up on that at all. Right, so this I will be using in the moment. I'll do it now before I get anything else out. My friend made this for me, or my friend's husband, and if I just unscrew this, that goes up. I don't know if you can see in there, we've got different height pegs. So if I take that, I'll take it down to the lowest and put those in the holes. Ingenious this, isn't it? I'm sure if somebody's husband, or, well, that's very sexist, isn't it? But anybody who's good with that woodwork could make these and sell them. Right, so you've got a lip on there. So if I'm working on the side of it, or the top of a cake, I have it that way. If I'm working on the side, I have it round that way. So I can work on it quite easily. And I will be piping. I'll use a tool when I'm piping. So that's quite, and then I've got a little compartment to keep them in. So let me get those out and see in a minute. So holes in there. And if anybody wants measurements for that, I can get that sorted. So yeah, so I will try and put my plaques on there. It's going to be quite weird because I'm very much piping with my arms tucked in front of me. So working on the side, it's going to be quite interesting, isn't it? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of scratch piping. So I'm going to work on this black board here, and that will, oh, let me see which one. Yeah, I'll work on that. Just so that it will show up nicely, so you can see what I'm doing. Now, onto our nozzles. So I mainly use a 1, a 2, a 3. There is a 3.5, which is that one, and a 44, I think that one is, yeah, for the shells. Okay, so I mainly use those, and I've got quite a few of each, because if we're doing a class, then I usually provide them nozzles. Now, this is these are PME, really top quality, and what you don't want is to buy cheaper ones and they have a seam down, because that usually means that the icing when you're piping will curl from the end of the nozzle. So likewise, if you do get a lump of icing and your nozzle's blocked, don't get a pin. I have to say, I don't always, sometimes I do, but if you push a pin in there and you get the tiniest split, your icing will just keep curling. You might as well just keep that one for cutting circles out of paste, because once that splits, it's not going to pipe. So do use a brush. Now you can buy little brushes, but I just use a paintbrush to get down inside there. And to be honest, if there's something down the bottom there and I want to clear it, I do just tend to blow, but I do wash it afterwards. Okay, so that's the nozzles. PME, I recommend those. So I've got my icing and I've got my, so I'm just going to start off with a simple shell. Now I still like paper bags, okay? If you have a triangle, that shape, and you put your finger, I've got it, I'm right-handed, so I've got my point here, not that way. You can do it that way, but I find it hard. Right, so I've got my point that way. The bottom one, I lift, put my finger opposite, and I curl that around. I don't just fold it flat like that, I curl it. Okay, and then this one goes round the back, and that goes up to the top as well. So you've got all 3 points there. Then just give it a little pull, and what you should have is a really sharp point there, and then you can fold that in. Do you want me to do that again? So I've got my 3 points there. Put your finger opposite that point, lift that up, curl it, this one down and round the back, and look to join the others. You've got a nice sharp point. Now if you think, oh, it's a bit open, mine's open there, that's no good. So hold it, put your hand inside, and then just slide that back one up and down, and it will really bring that to a point. Then you fold those in. I'm going to have to do it quicker because I can't. Right, fold those in. And what you can do then, there's a thing on the market, a stapler, but it doesn't have any staples. What it does, and I've lost mine, but what it does, you press it down and it makes a little tear in the paper, and you fold that, and that holds the bag steady. You can actually make a little tear yourself, 2 cuts, and fold that in, but it still slips when I'm filling them, so I do use a stapler with staples. So just make sure that there's no other loose staples, and that is holding it nice and firmly, so you know that that's not going to slip when you're filling your bag. That's entirely up to you, whether you use that or not. So I've got my paper bag there. It does take a little bit of practice to make them, and you can go down. I mean, sometimes you only want the tiniest bit of icing, so what you can do, even that, you know, a smaller bag, wrap it round, fold it in. Maybe not bother with a staple, but you could. And so make sure that one's pulled up tight, so it's really sharp. But I've made a tiny bag there. In fact, I'll hold on to it in case I need it. I don't think I will, but I might. I didn't even get that one. Never mind. I've lost my list. I think I've run out of staples, would you believe? But I'll make 2 little cuts, and I'll just fold a little bit in. I don't normally do that. I usually just have the icing ready and I fill it. Okay, that's that. So that, 2 little cuts, and fold it in, and that will hold the bag. So you can have lots of them ready. I just kept a jam jar, and I just have them all in there. You could go even smaller again. Those who have seen me demonstrate at my coffee mornings that we used to have will notice that have seen me make little titchy ones, just with a straight bit of paper. As long as you get that curl and the sharp end, that's all you need. Right, so how's my voice today, Wayne? I know I've only just realised that I've seen your message that you were watching some of the old videos and my voice sounded different. That was probably my posh voice, which is long gone. Yeah. Right, so I'm going to start off with, I think I'll just do a little bit of embroidery on here because it is like a lace type effect that the demonstration is about today. So I'm going to use for that, so that you can see it, I'll do a number 2 and I'll fill in with the number 1, I think. That's it. Let's see. That should be number 1. Can't see it, but yeah, it is. No, that's number 1. That's another number 2. Okay, so that's I thought it looked a bit big for her. Just check, look down inside, make sure there's nothing sitting in there that hasn't been washed out. So we've got a 2 and a 1. So when you come to cut the end off your bag, don't cut too much. You don't want the tube to come flying out. But there again, you want the end of the tube or nozzle to be clear of the paper. So that is clear of the paper, okay? And especially I've seen people piping with a star tube, star nozzle, and they've only cut the tiniest bit off the end. So when they start to pipe, they're actually piping through the paper. You're not getting the full effect of the teeth marks in it. So make sure that your nozzle is always clear of your paper bag. So I'm going to do this in white. I'll go on to colours in a moment. I'll get my icing back. Let's see. Now, never overfill your bag. Now, this is full peak, which is great for, as I say, it's great for shells and things like that you want the teeth marks to hold. But I am going to add just a touch of egg white to that, just to let it down, because I'm piping through a smaller nozzle than a star tube. And so I do need to have that just slightly softer than the full peak. You see the full peak on that? Yeah. So I'll put some of my egg white into a little container. That was lucky, wasn't it, that I had that lid properly on. I'm not covered in it. Okay, so just going to add a touch. Now, you could add maybe a touch of water, but if you're doing run outs, you wouldn't add water to it, or I wouldn't anyway, because that weakens it. And if you're doing run outs, you want it to dry firmly. But some people do. I'm only showing you my way. It's your way that matters to you, what you find easier. Right, so you can see that now. It's just slightly curling over. Can you see? Slowly hitting the depths there. So that's easier to pipe. I'll put my egg white to one side. Just remind me where it is if I can't find it. You're my front row during the stem. Right, so never overfill your bag. Going to have a little bit more, but it's size 2. So in your bag, fold your bag down, across like that. Pull your knife out, and then you fold right hand over, left side over, and fold it down. So you've got plenty of paper there. What you don't want is to lose control of your bag. If you overfill it and you haven't got much fold, when you press, it will come oozing out. So I'm going to put some in the number 1 as well. Right, there's my 1. Make sure it's clear, but not too clear. Don't want it flying out. In there, fold it down, then pull your knife out. Right, left, make a pad. So you're folding that down, and you've got a nice little pad there to push against. You can buy these ready-made, and you can use a plastic piping bag if you prefer. It's all down to your own preference on this. Your knife, keeping everything icing free. You can't have any icing anywhere that you don't want. Right. So let's start piping. Enough chat. Find a home for that. So with my this could be on the side of your cake, so I'm going to start off doing some scrolls with so I'm just going to divide this off. You could measure it if you are so inclined. Okay, I need to be there. You have a paper template and mark all this off. And the opposite there. And then I'm just going to just divide 3 of these. I'll just do 3 sections, and then I can use some others, do some other patterns on there. So I've just divided that off with little dots so that I know. You could, if it had been sugar paste cake, you could just make little holes with the end of a cocktail stick, just to divide that off. Okay. So then I'm going to scratch. This is called scratch piping. My nozzle, I'm not dropping it from a height. My nozzle is going to touch the board or the side of the cake as it would be. And if I was doing the side of a cake, that's when I would use my wooden, just saves having to have, let me just lift that. So if it was the side, I would have it that way. And so I could work on the side, okay? But as I'm not, I'll just put that down on the floor. Right, so I'm just going to pipe some little S scrolls on here, just to give it a little line. Actually, I was going to do a C scroll as well. Right, I'll concentrate now. So S scroll, C scroll, S scroll, C scroll, and that's with a number 2. So these are just, this is just going to be like a stem. And my tube is actually touching the icing. Yeah, not digging it in, but so there's no pre-embossed outline for you to pipe over. That can actually be harder than doing freehand, because you've got to drop it on. You don't want to see the embossed line. I'll go over that technique after. But yeah, so if you do it freehand, so then you would decide what type of flower you're going to put on here. So I'm going to switch to my number 1, and this nozzle is now going to sit in the damp cloth. So if I just show you over there, I've got my icing, and I'm just putting the nozzle end in there. Now you can buy little like former things, and you put a damp cloth underneath and drop them through, so it holds your bag and the ends touch. But if you haven't got one, then just use a damp cloth. But you do need to have that end in there. If you forget, the other thing you can do is actually just pipe a little line like that, and then put it to one side, and when you come to pipe, you just snap that off. Yeah, so I'll try that. I'll just put it over there. So I'm switching to my number 1 now. You could go to a 0, but I didn't think I'd use a 0 today. Excuse me. Right, so what I'm going to do a massive one here to show you what I'm going to do small. So I'm doing little things like this, right? And then just do little M's and W's so that it looks like a little flower. And I'm going to do that very small here. So that's exactly what I'm doing there. So moving along, the next one will be here. The scratch piping is really easy. So find the C scroll and just to the top of that, you're going to pipe. No two will look exactly the same. They won't be far off, but it depends how big you pipe it first. That one's bigger than that one, so I'll go back to that one and put a few more on. So just lift that up, you can see I'm getting some little flowers there, each one at the top of this C scroll. So this, as I say, could be around on a board or on the side of a cake or going up. You could do it much larger, you could do it this size on the side of a cake. Okay, so I've got my flowers on there. Then I'm going to put some leaves on. But I'm doing the outline, I'm not doing the full. So start there, up and back. I don't know if you can see. I'm doing that in front of each C scroll on there. So in front of that. And notice every time I wipe that off, you can see it building up on my fingers there. So I'm going to wipe that in a moment, get rid of it. Okay, so we've got the leaf on, all in the same, roughly the same place. And then one coming off that S scroll. So all I've done with that, I'm doing is that. So I'm doing this sort of shape. So if I just tip that up and do that. If it's large enough, you could just put a little centre vein in there. But I haven't done these. I might do. I haven't decided yet. But every one of these on the S scroll, underneath there, S scroll, yeah. I've got that little bit of the leaf, and then on top of the S scroll above. That's it. So always just repeat the pattern as you're going round. So you can see now I'm putting one. There's the S, putting one there. There's the S, and putting one there. This one will have one there, there, there. Right. And then I want to just put some little dots on, maybe a little filler. So halfway between those two flowers. Now when I'm doing the dots, I do this. I do 1, 2, 3 in a row, 2 either side, and that just makes a really nice little type of flower. So 1, you can see that one there, 1, 2, 3, 3 in a row, 2 either side. Okay, you can see that on there. So it just fills the space. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so we're filling out the top there, and then I think I'll just do the same underneath there. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going smaller and just tapping it, but I didn't do a very large S scroll on that one. If you find that you get little points, just have a fine paintbrush in water, dampen it, take the excess off either on your hand or on a piece of kitchen roll, and then you can just tidy things up. but do them before they dry. That's dried a bit there, but you can just knock points down and take things off. But you're in control, so you would just have your little paintbrush to hand. So let's see. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2. Behind the leaf. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so it's starting to build up nicely. And I think I'll do a few more here. So this time I'm just going to do 3, slightly bigger. So just where and what I do, I look at it with half closed eyes and I think, oh, I can see a big gap there. I stick a dot on it. Don't get too hung up on it. Okay, so we've got our scroll there. Now what you can do, if you wanted to, let's go back to this one. Now this is the one that I said, just squeeze a bit out and let it dry. I'll do the same with that one. Put that to one side. So this one, I'm just taking the end off and then I'm going back over this and it pipes perfectly okay. I just need my brush there. And I'm just putting more pressure, so I'm building up. The end of that S scroll. So this is, I always find that if you doodle, you know, if you're on the phone and you've got pen and paper, doodle S and C scrolls, just sit and draw them, and it's very, push that around, very therapeutic. So you can see I'm building up that part there now, the S and the C. More as an afterthought really. You could just leave it. I could have done it with the number 1 and had it really fine. Yeah, that one there. Let's see. Okay, so you can see on there we're building up a pattern. And so then what I think I'll do now is go over that way. I can never get these ones in. So if you had a gap on the board about that, then that would be a nice little board edge, wouldn't it, to it. So with a number 1, that's a 2, that's a 1, you could outline it. Now whether you do a wiggly line, which is easier than a straight line, I might do a wiggly one, a wavy line. So you're just going round all those shapes. And again, the nozzle is touching the board, or it would be touching the icing. I'll do one and then I'll lift this up so that you can see. So it's just scrape, 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 scrape. Scratch it on. If I lift that up, you can see the difference between those two. Might be getting a little bit of a flashback on the board. Maybe I should have had a matte board. And then so that's this. Just see on there when I lift it up. I can see on the camera whether you're getting it. Oh, that's better. Yeah. Now you might find, well, the leaves look a little bit open, so you can go back and put a little vein I'll do half and I'll show you. I think it does look better with a little vein in there. That needs joining there. You just go back and have a look at things. But this again is a number 1. If you find, when you're looking at it, if you think, oh, there's a big gap there, just stick a couple of dots in it. Now the last 2 haven't got the veins in. I don't know if you can see that there on the leaves. But the other leaves have. So it would be your decision whether you go and put those in. Right, so I'll just finish those and then I'm going to colour slicing. Okay, so that's finished. So I would go right round the whole thing there. But on the side of a cake, you know, or round the bottom of the cake or on the board, it would look really pretty. Let me put that to one side. Excuse me. I'm going to bring in this one. So what I've done here, I'm just going to put these into that damp cloth for now. The only thing is a damp cloth, you don't want your paper bag to get soggy. And that's why the little, it's like a little box with holes in, not dissimilar to the one I've got my paintbrushes in. And then you put your bags in and there's a wet sponge at the bottom, so it's just your just the nozzle touches the wet and not the paper bag. Okay, so what I've done on here, I've embossed a heart and the person's initial, E for Emily. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to outline, I think I'm just thinking that I'll outline it in white. So I'm going to do with my number 2 piping nozzle. And I just want to outline this E to begin with. It's white on white, so I do apologise for that. Now, if you were doing this to go on the side of a cake, monogram, I'll show you what to do with that in a minute. Okay. Right, and then I'm going to use my damp brush, not wet, just damp. And I'm just going to coax that in. Now I'm going to hold it up. You may not see white on white, but I am going to flood it in blue in a moment. So just make sure that if you have embossed on there, then you can't see the outer. So I'll just leave that like that. Okay. Now, if you wanted to have a letter that you can stick on the side of the cake, then you would have something like this. Now, years ago, we used to pipe runouts out on wax paper, and so that was fine. But it does work on something like this. I just got a piece of plastic on a board, and if you've got a pattern, then you slide it in there, and then you can pipe over it. So what I've done with that, I haven't got pattern in there, but I could just do that. But you would have a pattern to follow. I'm just doing a bit of a freehand one. Just to show you. I mean, it could be anything. It could be Spider-Man. It could be anything at all. The pattern, and then you overpipe it with the... Well, I think I'm just going to put that to one side. So, I'm going to put some flowers and foliage in colour around here, and then I'm going to flood that in the blue. So I need the same sort of consistency as I had before. I'm just going to add a touch, not too much, just a touch of egg white to this. And I'm just going to sort of talk about the colour, what I use to colour it. Sorry, sidetracked there. So I'm going to do a tiny bit of yellow. So if you're going to colour it, as you know, I tend to colour a lot of things with dust colours. That's fine. Sometimes you can get spotting with the dust colours. It depends how they're made. You know, you get a pink, and if it's a sort of a cerise, you're going to get quite a bit of blue in there as well. And if you mix that in, you may end up with little blue spots. So if you don't want that, then you would use a gel colour. Right, so I'm going to do a dusky pink and a green to start with. So cocktail stick, touch of pink in there, not too much. I should really keep those covered. I shouldn't have them sitting out like that. A bit more. So this is a dusky pink. Oop, that's too much. Use that. Now, if you're going to use dust colours, might have gone a little bit, holding its shape. I'm going to pinch a little bit of that. I think I added a touch too much egg white there. That's better. Just holding its shape better. And I'm going to put that into a number 2, I think. Piping bag. So I'll get this in and I'll just say about the dust colours. In, close the bag, pull out the knife, right over, left over, fold down. Put to one side. Right, this one is going to be a touch of green, so a little bit of egg white. But for what I'm doing here, letting this down, you could use a touch of water, your knife in the water, just to let that down a little bit. It's only really if you're doing run-outs that you want to dry. You don't want to weaken the strength of the royal icing by adding water. You want to definitely add the egg white to a run-out consistency, which I'm going to go on to in a minute. Right, so this is green. My favourite colour is spruce green. And that is one of the Sugar Flare. Got a bit of pink on there, but that's alright. We'll get away with it. Okay. And I'm going to use a number 1 for this. I'll grab the bag. Knife in, press it down, pull the knife out, right, left, fold it down. And then just a tiny, tiny bit of yellow. So if I'm using these, I keep them upright in a little cup, drinking cup, because they do tend to leak. Just take a little bit off the end of that. A little bit of egg white. And that's going to be for the centre of the flower. Now you can see on that, I only want to put a little tiny dot in. So Where's the end of it? Oh, there. Where did I put? Okay, I'll leave it in there for now. Oh, it's there. Right, put it in there. And it's a tiny bag I made earlier. Do I need that? Do you know what? I'm not even going to, I'll keep that one. I'm not even going to bother with it, a nozzle. I'm just going to put that in and fold it down. And that's just going to be for the centre of my little flower. Right, so I'll move all that out of the way. Completely covered everything with pink. Clear my knife. One thing about royal icing, it does make you be tidy. Okay, my egg white over there. So this one, I'm going to pipe some little flowers on there. Now let me show you on this big board again. That if I pipe and squeeze down, that's, if you think of that being the head, and then either side squeeze and pull down, squeeze and pull down. Those are the two arms. I don't know if you can see that. So I always think of this as being a head, two arms, and then two legs. That will give me a 5-petaled flower. Okay. I feel as though I'm standing on one leg, trying to pipe. But that would, and then I'll do my yellow bit after. So this is just going to be round the. I'm not going to pipe a green line on there. I'm going to fill in with head. I'll fill in with wings. With leaves, with wings. So one, and then I'm doing one opposite head, side two, which are the arms. Like that. Okay, so we've got little flowers on there. And then I'm just dividing it up. So head, two arms, two legs, and then opposite that, just to make it even-ish. Okay, and then I'll do two between, so head. I mean, you could start off with a big one at the top and go smaller as you come down. They're not actually touching in the middle. Make them touch. So 1, 2, 3. What you don't want to do, I'll show you what not to do, is this. I can do it on this. I'll show you the difference. So if you do a head, two arms quite tight in, and two legs. You're with me on that? You understand about that, don't you? But if I do this, not press much and get long, spindly, and just don't press much at all, and it just peters out to nothing. Can you see the difference? It'd be all right, looks like a daisy, but if you get the pressure and keep them closer, it fills that space. I think it looks better. Right, so nearly there. So head, two arms, two legs, head. That one definitely looks smaller. I've lost my momentum. Usually I count. If I'm piping, I'll show you after when I'm going to do some. So 1, 2, maybe 3 there. Head, two arms, It's just finding your rhythm to... Now while all that's just setting off, this is still quite a soft icing. You can see, maybe you can't, but the last ones I piped has got a little bit of shine on it. And so I should be able to flood this. So I'm just really, really, really... Now, if you have a scriber, which is just a long pin really, you can wiggle that about and push it into where you want it to go. Don't underfill. And bring that down. Make sure you get a really nice... Some people do a sort of a central wiggly line and then pipe over it, but I always find that more difficult, to be honest. I'm frightened of it setting, and then when you wiggle it, it brings up the dried bit, so I don't bother with that. I just make sure I've got plenty of icing in there, and also this way, if there's any air bubbles, you can work them out to the edge. They should pop then. Just wiggle that about so it runs smooth. If you find it doesn't run smooth, then your icing is too thick. A little bit more there. This is nice for a little christening cake as well. This type of thing. With it being a heart and the initial. Just make sure. Okay, so that should run smooth. Alright, so I've got my flowers in there. So now I'm going to use the green. And I've got a number 1 here. So maybe I should have done a 2, but I'm going to have to squeeze hard. So normally when I'm piping, I hold the bag like that and I push with my thumb. But if I need a lot of pressure out of a small tube, I'll hold it like that. And I'll squeeze and pull, yeah, on one side. So I'm filling in that gap. Just squeeze. So where I did the squeeze and pull down to the centre for the flowers, I'm now squeezing, pulling out for the leaves. Same, so it's the same movement or technique, but just they come either inwards or outwards. Okay, so then this one go that way. Show you where we're up to. Okay. Just go along like so. So I've got my outline there to guide me, but I have more or less covered it. Okay, so we've got the little heart like that, and it does need that little tiny centre. So I'm just going to cut a very small hole in that. Well, not that small. Size of a 1 probably. Yeah, better. So then, now you could let this dry. Now over here I've got my heat lamp, and it's enough to show to get the heat down, enough to dry or skim this over quite quickly, especially if you're going to pipe different colours next to each other. Now, you've seen me use the heat lamp before. I think when I was doing a royal ice cookie for Halloween last year. So if I show you that, you can see the ones that have got the yellow centre, and there's a couple over this side that hasn't got the centre, and the centre definitely makes it, doesn't it? So I'll just do this one, like so. Okay, and then something like the lacy thing that I piped before, you could pipe around the outside edge on that. But that, you know, it's the start of a very pretty little christening cake top, or birthday cake, a little one. So there's a gap there I can see, so I'm just going to put the tiniest bit of green in there, and that just takes the eye away from it. So have a look and see if you want to. Right, so you're not going to notice that green, but it does take the white away. Okay, so I'm just going to put that to one side, and I'm just going to show you Cornelli just quickly before I finish. And I'll do more royal icing for you at other times, but what I've done, I've embossed a number 6 on here, right, one of our big number 6s. And the Cornelli is when you have, I'll do it with a number 1. There you go. You don't have any straight lines. So if you think of M's and W's, like that, you can see that. So what I'm going to do here, I thought, is just, it will just give it a very quick, you can do it close or you can do it more open like this. You can stop. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't stop, you see a take-off line, but I stop. I need to breathe. I tend not to breathe when I'm piping. So rather than collapse on the floor, I stop and have a breather. And very rarely can you see where I started again. But, I mean, years ago, we used to do the whole cake in this. And, it did not cover a multitude of sins, especially on a royal ice cake. Or we do panels, or we used to emboss a big flower in the centre and then do the Cornelli in the centre of the flower. So it's scribble, but no straight line scribble. Okay, so we go around like so. And then just to finish it off, just going to pipe a very quick, what they call a little snail's trail. Okay, so I've done that, so it doesn't take long. I've just seen the start of the conversation. I'll answer all your questions later. Right, so I'm just going with a 2, number 2, and I'm just going to do a little snail's tail. So it's squeeze, pull down, squeeze, pull down, squeeze, pull down over that embossed line. I mean, you could have cut this out first and put it on, or you can, as I've done, just emboss. I'm just doing little tiny. They call it they call it a snail's trail, but I think that's a horrible term. It always reminds me of that it should be shiny for some reason. So I'd rather just say it's very small shell with a plain nozzle. Now I haven't done the really large pipe scroll, which I'll do at another time, you know, with the number 44 and all the over piping. It's a bit old hat now, but some people might like to have a more traditional cake. So it is handy to know how to do it. And I'll also recap on the brush embroidery another time. We've got new cutters coming out next week. So excited. Going to have a play later. So I'm not quite sure what day, what time. We will post when we're doing, when it'll be on. So this is a 2, but I could have got away with a 1. It might have been a little bit easier. See? And I'm trying to keep it small. So it would be small with the number 1, wouldn't it? I wouldn't have to not press hard, sort of thing. Are you with me? And then a little paintbrush, just to touch up any little bits on there. So that is your number 6. Okay, so that's it. I hope you've enjoyed that little play with royal icing. And as I say, I will do another one a bit later on, maybe for Christmas theme with some nice scrolls, scrolls and brush embroidered holly, brush embroidered Christmas rose, something like that. That would look nice. So I'll design something up. I've also been playing with buttercream palette knife painting. So once I've perfected that, I'll do a little bit of that for Christmas as well. But next week will be our first of our new Christmas ones. So I'm so excited. That's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon, having a play. So thank you for joining me. And as I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you'll have a little go at the royal icing. And I'll see you next week. Not sure when, but I will see you. Okay, thanks. Bye.